Welcome to episode 103 of Chatting with Nuts. I am, of course, Jimmy Nuts, and this is an episode of Chatting with Nuts where we're actually going to end up doing a little bit of a wrap-up. This is in a nutshell edition of Chatting with Nuts. It's the battle of the sequels. To dispel the rumors that I never read book twos, I think this is the year of the most book twos ever, which is good. And I know I say it a lot, but I got to rub it in because, well, I can and I'm allowed to. Very happy to see everyone here live in the chat. If you're watching this after the fact, I also appreciate you being here. If you're not super keen on hearing me converse back and forth with the chat, there are going to be timestamps below where you can click and jump around to just me individually talking about books. Those bookmarks will be there pretty much 15 minutes after we go off the air. So, but we do have a ton of people here in the chat, which is great. November, big month. Holiday month here in the States. It's also my birthday month, so I am now officially 35 years old, which I would say is probably about half of my life if I had to guess. So I'm half dead, or am I half alive? I'll let you decide which one's which. But it was a good month. A little bit of burnout, just a lot of stuff going on. More and more work happening for me, which isn't a bad thing. And also picked up a new hobby, which I'll probably talk about at some point, maybe towards the end or something, if I feel like it, if anyone cares. So yeah, good month, some thick books, some dense books, self-pub in there, a novella sequel that we'll talk about. And overall, I would say I'm happy November is done. I don't have an overwhelmingly positive book this month, which might shock some of you. And I have a lot of thoughts. Some of the books I think I might have the same complaints about. And then I also have plans for December. Some of them are already underway. And of course, we'll be selecting the random Patreon read of the month. We did update the list. Mrs. Nuts uses a spreadsheet to update the list. So anyone who is watching, if you have any complaints about it, if you're not on there, please let me know, because sometimes the automation of the spreadsheet does get broken, unfortunately. So yeah, I did say 35 DK Moon, not 45. So we're going to wrap up November, talk about December, which should be exciting, and I'll give you my year-end plans. It's probably the busiest time on booktube, I think. These year-end lists, I know people get tired of seeing them, but they're fun and kind of a good opportunity to pause and look back and reflect. And I'm looking forward to that. So we'll do that. I'm going to say hi to the chat, though. Get in here. I did start this stream a little bit late. I apologize. I usually do a fresh restart of my computer, and I didn't this time, and I paid the price. So then I end up having to do a restart anyway. So stick with your rituals, folks. I'm telling you, there's a reason why they become rituals. So Evie, thank you, Jimmy, for contributing to the gift. I'm glad that you enjoyed it, and I'm glad that I was asked to be a part of that. So sequels, Everyman Reed says, who needs them? You can just read Clarissa for months. Months, bro? I think it might be years. Folks, if you don't know, I think Clarissa is one of the longest books of all time. I think Proust is the only other person that's longer. And it's a book about nothing. Supposedly, it's the most character-driven read of all time, though. Not in the sense that there's a bunch of characters, but the sense that there's one character and you're literally living inside their head. We'll call that one of the white whales. How about that? I don't know if I'll ever get to it. But it is great to see everybody checking out here. I hope that you all are well. Hope you're enjoying your Friday night. Or if you're watching this after the fact, I hope that you're doing well whenever you watch this. So, sir, are those new glasses? They look nice. I have worn them, I think, once on the channel, maybe twice. And yes, they are new glasses. Don't worry, the dark rims are still around. I'm just switching up the vibe every now and then, if you will. Taking a little bit because I have a really fat head. So I had to get adjusted to these. They're a little bit more narrow. So, yeah, some new frames. Shout out to Warby Parker. Shout out to Warby Parker. What's up, Mrs. Nuts? Mrs. Nuts is in the chat. I see people saying hello. Thank you, everyone. Sarah Beth, everybody, thank you so much for the birthday wishes. I very much appreciate that. Rebecca, it's good to see you. Adam, there's tons of people here. Hello to all of you. Hello to all of you. What were the vibes for you guys? You can even tell me in the comments below if you want. But for the people who are chatting, I'm curious, did you guys have a good reading month in November? I feel like some people really hunkered down during the holidays and get a lot of reading done. And then there's some people who kind of put it to the side. I'm somewhere in between, I think. What's up, Red? Very good to see you. Looking forward to discussing one of the books I'm going to talk about tonight, which is No Life Forsaken. A Seinfeld book. Talking about Clarissa? Possibly. Oh, thank you. Thank you. One of the things about doing YouTube is that if you change anything about your appearance, there's usually a lot of comments, and they're not always positive. One video ever, I wore contacts, and I'll never wear contacts again. I mean, there are people who love comments like, hey, I'm glad you got contacts, but you just look so much better with glasses on. Like, this is not the look for you. And I'm like, well, at least I'm getting honest feedback, I suppose. So thank goodness that the new glasses are getting a positive response, because it's not always a guarantee on the internet. So thank you all for being so kind. Shall we jump into the reads? I think now is as good of a time as any. And I'm going to kick it off with the only book on this list. There are 4 books to go over tonight. 4, not 5. 4 books to go over tonight. And the first one I'm going to go over is the only book one that we have here. And this was the Patreon pick of the month. And it was an interesting one to read. I haven't read a ton of I actually don't think I read any self-pub this year. So this was my first self-pub, I believe, for 2025. And I got to say, I had a good time. I am mostly positive on it. And that is The Heretic's Homecoming by Sienna Tristen. I think it's Sienna. This cover had me thinking maybe it was a romantasy. I wasn't sure what the author was going for. And I got to tell you, it's a little bit of everything. There's a lot about this book I think many of you are going to like. I'm going to try to highlight some of the finer points of it without giving too much of it away, because one of the things I like about this book is the sense of revealing more and more about the lore in the world and the myths and the gods and all this stuff. And I do think some of you are going to like this. I'm pretty sure. I saw some people calling this cozy fantasy. I don't know if I necessarily felt that way, because the main character, which if I have it right, is Renoa. I hope I'm saying that right. I hope it's not some weird pronunciation of the R, like Yanoa. I think it's just Renoa. Has anxiety, and maybe is a heretic, maybe isn't, is not at home. That's for sure. I think the title gives some of that away. But Renoa is stricken with anxiety. Also self-doubt, a little bit of self-loathing. You might be thinking to yourself, Jimmy, is this main character you? And I would say, kind of. And we are with Renoa as they are going out into the world, learning a lot of things, and experiencing a lot of different things. And that'd be friendships, romance, kind of the whole shebang. But all of that through the lens of the anxiety provides a pretty unique experience, I think, in fantasy, especially a fantasy that is this kind of big, encompassing series. And it works for the most part. I really do think it does. This is a world where like gods are watching, possibly, maybe even maneuvering things around, moving pieces. And people can have like almost be like embodiments of the god, like they're kind of like part of their little tribe. And to me, it almost feels like people watching pieces on a chessboard with some of the interludes that I really, 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 really liked. And when I get into self-pub, I never really know what I'm going to get into, because some self-pub, very well edited. Some self-pub, not very well edited. One thing that's kind of cool about self-pub is that you can pretty much have an idea and you don't have to answer to any market research or publisher, and you can kind of do that thing. Having the character in this amazing fantasy world full of adventure, going through anxiety, is something you can do. You can drill down and say, what happens if this character is suffering from this? And I was unsure if the idea would be something that would click with me. I think mostly it did. But the thing is actually the writing really clicked with me. Aspects of the writing. And I do have some critiques about the writing for my own personal subjective experience, but I got to tell you, it's been a while since I've read a new author where I really felt like a passion in the writing, specifically in fantasy, quite like this. I was very, very impressed. I felt like I could really feel the fact that this writer wanted this world to come to life in a very specific manner, and that they had crafted a world that they were proud of. And that's cool. It's really cool. I love feeling that passion. There's like a true sense of adventure in discovering the world in Heretic's Guide. All right, I'm going to say it now. I don't like the title of this book. I think it's kind of cutesy. I actually think it works. I think people are kind of like, what does that really mean? I don't personally like the title of this book at all. And mainly because I can't ever get it right. But there is a sense in this of adventure and discovery, not just of the world, but also internally. And it's written in a manner that kind of like just drips with unapologetic passion. And it has alliteration, fantastic diction. Some of the word choices are really good. And that's something I've been noticing more and more, not just in fantasy, but a lot of books get this feeling to me that maybe they're not taking the biggest care when it comes to the words that they're using. But this book does. And for that, and using alliteration and almost making a fantasy book have fantastical writing, that makes this feel pretty special. At least to me. Maybe it's because of the things that I have been reading. Sorry, I have to take a drink of this. I don't want to, but I have to. So, why is this only mostly positive, you might be wondering? Well, I think that this has a lot of things going for it as far as world building, and mainly when it comes to like the history. Ancient race used to enslave the population. You all know that ancient race is now gone. That's like quintessential me when it comes to fantasy. But even though the plot points are pretty good and I like the ending of this book, I think the connective tissue struggles a bit. And what I mean by that is I felt as if we were going from point A to point B or having a conversation, and we weren't getting there in the most natural of ways. Sometimes things felt a bit abrupt. I mean, right in the beginning of the book, Renoa sits down with a character, and the character's basically like, sit down, shut up, I need to tell you some things. And I just felt like they had just met, they had some dinner, and I was just like, I don't think that's how this would go. Not that the character was acting out of character, really. Quite like that character, actually. But in the manner in which it goes about, it felt like, hey, sit down, we got to get some exposition done. And I just think we could have gotten to those things just a little bit more naturally, possibly. And that makes me think that, who knows, maybe another 2-3 go-throughs of this with another developmental editor. I don't know if they have a developmental editor, they might. But I would love to see like another pass through and be like, how can we tighten these things up and get the flow to work a little bit more? Because whenever we're just looking at the writing, plain as day, it's very fun to read. The writing does have a flow, but the scenes didn't necessarily have a flow. And I'll be honest, I was not super into the dialogue. Not that it was the worst thing, the cheesiest thing, but it wasn't sharp to me. And I think with a book that is setting out to put this character in situations where they have to interact and grow, and that comes with like relationships and conflicts that sometimes are basically just talking. You need to be snappy. You need to be a little sharper. So the dialogue is not the worst thing ever. It just was middling for me. I just wish some of the stuff flowed better from scene to scene. As far as plot points go, I liked it. I like the ending of the book. I don't know if I would continue this just because I have so many series. And I don't know if this is truly a series for me. But I do think a lot of you could enjoy it, which is really what this is about. I want to give you what I thought, but I hope by giving you some of the strengths, some of the weaknesses, maybe you could make a decision. I think this is like, of course, a gamble like any book would be, but I'm kind of surprised this isn't a little bit more popular. The romance is dashed in there. There's family drama. There's like this really good sense of like myth and a lot of world mysteries that you want to understand and solve. So there's interest throughout the book, and that's what we want. We want to be able to continue to keep turning the page, as we say here. But we also have to talk about the anxiety thing a little bit more, because I immediately, what I thought about this was the criticism that you see with Kaladin in Stormlight Archive. And if you have not read Stormlight Archive and you don't know what I'm talking about, Kaladin, Stormblessed, is suffering from depression for a lot of Stormlight Archive and is trying to really overcome this. And there's a lot of internal monologuing and dialogue and whatever else. And it can be a bit frustrating. And I have some critiques of that character, and I acknowledge I actually agree with some of the popular discussions around it that's more negative, but also I like some of it too. I don't know how to feel about all of the inner monologues. I keep saying monologue. I'm more so meaning inner dialogue inside of Renoa's head. There were times where I felt like I could relate so much to Renoa. Then there were times where I felt almost exhausted by it, which is probably fair. But I was almost more exhausted because I felt the effort of being like, hey, isn't this just like what you go through in real life? Like, it was almost too on the nose, if you will. The thing about it is anxiety, depression, whatever, it is on the nose. It is blunt, especially if you're the one experiencing it. But we're talking about a reading experience here. And I wonder how many people would become very frustrated with Renoa rather quickly. Like, if you're someone who's like, I don't think I would like to read a character with anxiety, I wouldn't read this. If you're not sure, I would try it. And if you want to, I think you're probably going to enjoy this quite a bit. But even for me, as someone who is interested in this type of thing, there were just times where it felt a little too much. Like maybe like getting the point across and then beating it to death, possibly. That's a very subjective thing. But I do think it's something to consider whenever you're going to sit down and read a book. This thing wasn't very long, by the way, sub 500 pages. Did not feel like the longest book in the world, where there were some books I read this month that felt like they would literally never end. So I never had too much of an issue with it. I am impressed by this book, and I don't know if that's because I had no idea what to expect going in, or if it's just genuinely something that is, in some manners, like well above average. I think that the latter is probably true. I would love for some of you, if this sounds at all interesting, I would really like you guys to try it, just because I would want to see what more people think about this. I didn't really look around at reactions to this. You can look at the ratings. This did win some sort of self-pub award. I don't know what it is, or if anyone else was even in it. I don't know. I'm not privy to the awards for self-pub, but I would like to hear more people kind of talk about this and experience it, especially if you're someone who is interested in reading about a character with anxiety. It could be cool. But all said and done, the adventure of this is awesome. I really, really enjoyed it. And I felt almost a sense of like One Piece. It's nothing like One Piece. Okay, let me say that. But One Piece has always given me this feeling of like there's more out there to discover, and there's more than meets the eye as far as how this world works. But also, One Piece does have some of, if not the best sense of adventure. I always felt like I was going, like making progress, going somewhere new. And this book kind of had that feeling as well, with always thinking about that homecoming in the back of your head. So I very much enjoyed it. Not my favorite of all time by any means. This isn't going to make like a top 10 list, but a solid read and a very good self-pub book. I do not grade them on a curve. I used to, and the more I thought about it, I don't. So this isn't like mostly positive for a self-pub. I just judge all books as books. So this is just a mostly positive for me. If you read this, or you have, let me know, not even just in the chat, but in the comments. I would like to see what more people think about this, just because not enough people have read it. And I think that it's probably worth picking up. So I'm going to go to the chat. I'm going to assume that absolutely no one has read this except for the patron who picked it for me. But I would love if someone is here that has. Meowcat said November was abysmal vibes. I'm sorry to hear that. Zeely Green says, read my favorite book of the year this month, The Goblin Emperor. Nice. I want to revisit that. I put it down. I didn't know what I was getting myself into. This is like 6 years ago. I would like to go back to it. Contacts suck. I would agree. I'm trying. Oh, those are the washed philosopher glasses, TM? Yes, they are. Jared left them at my house, so I slapped them on my face, and all of a sudden I feel like I'm better than everyone else. Isn't that weird? The Jared effect, as you will. Anxiety as one of the tags. it's about as blunt as it is in the book. So if that's too on the nose, then the book might be too on the nose too, possibly. And maybe other people feel completely different about it. I'm not sure. So Reader's Journey said anxiety kicked my ass in November. I'm sorry to hear that. Very, very sorry to hear that. I didn't know you were in the chest, Jimmy. Somewhat. I mean, back in the day, I was more so. Joe Abercrombie's diction bugs me when he uses floundering over and over again. I love Joe Abercrombie's writing. I've never noticed the floundering, but I also haven't read like the original trilogy in a while, so I wonder if I would still feel as enamored with his earlier stuff, possibly. So, Every Man Reads says, a realistic depiction of mental health is almost always too much for most readers, because that's what it actually feels like for the person. Difficult, but rewarding when it connects. Yeah, and then we also have to the thing that is always tough to navigate, it's like, well, if you don't like Kaladin and you hate depressed people, and as someone who has depression, I actually don't think Kaladin is a fit-all for depression. I think depression is a much more complex thing. It's depicted in a certain way in Stormlight, and certainly some of it does feel true, but it's in a frame of a story, right? So we always have to kind of balance that of like, how well is this being executed to reality? But also, is it making the story better? And then we have to ask, well, what's this story trying to accomplish? There's a lot of questions to ask. And it's probably, especially with Stormlight, the conversation always just veers so far off that it's not even fun to discuss at all. With a book like this, with fewer readers, I think this could be interesting to listen to. So, Jimmy, did you listen to those King Gizzard songs I recommended, Dragon and Flamefire? I need to know. Yes, and they rocked. Actually, the hobby cult that I picked up this month is I'm learning how to play guitar. So maybe I'll play one of them one day. Probably not, though. I suck. Okay, so that was the only book one we had this month. And now it's the battle of the sequels, as they say. And I have a whole lot to say about these books. First one I'm going to get is the only book this month that's going to get the nut button. I usually only save it for overwhelmingly positive, but for two reasons, I'm going to give this the nut button. And one is because this might be an overly positive book. There's a potential. And then two, this could make my top 10 books of the year. I haven't sat down yet and done any of that, but this will go on the list where I start breaking it down. Like, does this even qualify for a top book of the year? And this will. I just don't think it's going to be number one. Who knows? Maybe. No, it's not. It's not going to be number one. But it most likely will make the list. And three, you tune in to see the nut button, right? That's kind of part of the only reason when people watch this channel, I think. No Life Forsaken. Book 2 in the Witness series, which is a sequel series to Malazan. Don't worry, I'm not going to spoil any of Malazan. I'm going to try to be very careful with the way I speak, but still give you an idea of why this feels like a sequel times 2. A very weird thing to say about this book, but it is a sequel to The God Is Not Willing, Book 1 in the Witness. But it also feels like way more of a proper sequel to the Malazan, the 10 books of Malazan, than The God Is Not Willing did. Not that it doesn't take place after, but this one has so much going for it as far as things that we want to see that are results of the 10-book series. Stephen Erikson is a cruel man in the sense that he never really gives us what we want until we're about to bail, and then he'll deliver it. And then honestly, and truthfully, there are times where some things are never tidied up, and it can be frustrating to read. His payoffs to me have always delivered. More on that in a little bit. It almost felt like Erikson said, okay, I'm going to take the gloves off and give you a lot. And he gave a lot. I mean, he was explaining stuff, which was cool. I mean, and I don't mean just like flat out explaining it. I mean, giving us some answers to the stuff we wanted, reoccurring characters. This has me very interested in Carcanus because I was like, who is this character? And people were like, you got to read Carcanus. And I'm like, that's interesting. Now, you don't have to read Carcanus to read this book. I'm sure there's a Malazan fan out there that probably would tell you that, but I haven't. I read it, and I love this book. My first impression of this book as I opened it up was just simply, wow, I love Stephen Erikson's writing. He's one of, in my opinion, he's one of the best. He's one of my favorites, regardless of genre. And it had so many good vibes. This takes place in the Seven Cities, which is more of like a desert with like fanatic religions running around. Seven Cities monumental to the main series and has always been second to me to Genebacus, which is a different continent where other stuff is happening. I've always preferred Genebacus. The God Is Not Willing takes place on Genebacus. This takes place in the Seven Cities. And I think this is the book that flipped me. I think I actually like the Seven Cities the most now in the series. And if you haven't finished the 10 books or whatever, I did feel like this was in some ways like a spiritual successor to the Chain of Dogs. And then that whole thing in Dead House Gates, really, book 2. There's stuff here that feels somewhat similar, and then stuff we get later in the series and the other books in the Seven Cities. But I was like, I almost feel like the wheels are turning and we're going again. It really nails it. Really, really nails it. Some people coming from the main books that I did not expect. I was gleeful. And you might say, hey, that's a bit of fan service, but we get so little fan service in Malazan that I was just happy. I was happy. I felt so immersed in it. And Aaronfall is a character here that I really like. Shamel. These are not really spoilers at all. 2 characters I thought were excellent. There were some characters that I don't think would make a short list of the most memorable of all time, but getting some of the reoccurring characters and some mysterious characters that we're wondering who they are. I'm so good. I'm so invested. Now, did I like it more than The God Is Not Willing? And why isn't this overwhelmingly positive? And there's simply just one reason. And that is that this book, I think, is doing a lot of legwork to set up conflicts that are going to come and a lot of characters being established for things that will come in the next 2 books. And because of that, and I don't know if I've ever said this about a Steven Erikson novel, I was a bit whelmed by the ending of this book. I am usually ending a Steven Erikson novel and saying, oh my God, how does he do it? Not totally unlike Brandon Sanderson in the idea that there's this final act that always comes down and things start converging, which is a very popular term in Malazan, but like things are collapsing around you, things start clicking. There's resolutions to things. There's actually new stories being began. And all that is true. Like there is a climax. It is thrilling. But some of it just felt a bit repetitive to me and just not the kind of payoff that I've come to expect from a Malazan book. And I think that largely has to do with the fact that this book had a lot of work to do to probably help the future 2 novels. So for that, it's a book 2 and really a book 1 of like a new Seven Cities arc. So how much can I criticize it? I liked everything about this book more than The God Is Not Willing until the ending. I like The God Is Not Willing ending better. Character-wise, I think that The God Is Not Willing might be tied as far as new characters go, like Stillwater and Rant, I very much enjoy. And there was one thing in this book that's super spoiler, so I can't talk about it, where I felt like Erikson was kind of subverting some expectations, kind of doing, like I said, he can be very cruel. And I'm willing to be wrong, and this is just my own personal opinion. I actually think the story is a little less interesting for a decision that he made that was a bit shocking, a bit of a subversion. But it was one of the few times where I thought, was that subversion actually better for the story? I don't know, because I don't know the whole story yet. We got to see how it goes, and it ties into a very important character from the main 10 books. In my opinion, like the most important character in the main 10 books. We got to see. But I did think the final act of this book just didn't hit the high notes as some of the other ones. Also, there's natural disasters happening all around the Malazan world at this point, and I just think Steven Erikson loves floods. I mean, he probably hates floods, but he loves using them in his books. I thought that was kind of funny. Not a con, just I was like, oh, okay, another one. So The God Is Not Willing. Only like, I don't know, 10,000 people in the world can probably read it, because that means they read the main 10 and then they read The God Is Not Willing in this. I saw many people say you could read The God Is Not Willing as your first Malazan. I don't really care. Either way, I think you probably could. Maybe you couldn't. I don't know. I don't have a very hard opinion about that. But I do not think that this is a book you could read for if you read The God Is Not Willing as your first Malazan book, I would recommend going and reading the main 10, then coming back and reading No Life Forsaken. So unfortunately for you that have not read Malazan, this is not going to be an entry point. But This is the first time in the Witness series, I want to say it's trilogy, but it's going to be 4 books now, I believe, that I really feel like the threads of the main 10 are going to be picked back up just a bit or revisited, or people have changed and I'm wondering why. And there's a lot of confusion, but it's like really good confusion. And it's just really amazing to me. I just feel, as a Malazan fan, as a Steven Erikson fan, I feel so lucky that there is a proper sequel to the main 10. And I said this to a friend, and this is kind of going to be my last point about this book, and we'll move on, is Witness is starting to feel less like a little side adventure for the fans and far more something major, like really major, to a point where I was like, we're getting 400, 500 page Malazan novels that are packing a punch, getting a lot of lore in there and setting up new conflicts that I'm interested in. Could Witness grow even more? Like, what if Erikson were to come back and say, actually, I have another book, like, what if this became a 5-book series? I don't think it will. I think it's going to be 4. I think Erikson's probably going to stick to that. But this is no longer a 4-book series that's kind of fun to read after the fact. I am very invested on where this goes. I still feel very confident that the payoffs are going to be excellent for the series. And this is major. I guess that's the thing. Like, I came away from this being like, we have a major Malazan series that's going on right now, and that is awesome. And I know Carcanus, a lot of people think is major as well. I'm very excited to read it. But it's just like we're spoiled. We're very spoiled. I feel the exact same way about The Last King of Osnar by Tad Williams. The fact that man is still working, he's still writing, he's still giving us awesome stuff. Erikson's doing the exact same thing. And in my opinion, is one of the best ever to do it. So very positive on this. Give it the nut button. It would be overwhelmingly positive. Probably actually in the running for Book of the Year had the final act been just a little bit more up to par with the other endings that I've enjoyed in this series. Not a bad ending, but just not to the level that, and to be fair, the bar is very, very, very high for Malazan novels. So would love to see what people think about in the chat or in the comments below. Please do not spoil anything for anyone. If you're commenting later and you're going to spoil, just like write spoilers and then kind of hit enter a couple times if you can. I don't want to ruin it for anybody, though Malazan is very hard to spoil anyways. So, all right, let's go to the chat and see. Books of Genghis Khan said, love getting hyped for this one with the nut button. Love hearing we get some explanations. Ben. I mean, the best part is that, it's not 900 or 1,000 pages, though I have heard many people say that they think these books would be better if they were longer, and that Erikson really shines in that format more so than this 400, 500 page. I don't know if I necessarily agree, but I think there's an argument to be made. But it's ironic because Erikson, I believe, got his start as a short story writer, which is why those big Malazan books are really a lot of short stories when you kind of think about it. So Jenna Rose Reed said, this makes me so hyped to read this. I got to tell you, it just, I was like a kid in a candy shop. And he starts out the book on fire. It's so good. Would this book spoil The God Is Not Willing? No, not really. I think I even saw someone say that you could read this before The God Is Not Willing. It would probably like get you more excited. I don't know if that's true. I'd have to really like think about it. Good to see you, Samwise. Team 7 Cities. I feel like most people like the 7 Cities more than Jenna Bacchus. I am a recent convert, and it has to do with this book. So it's the happiest Malazan book. Happiest in the sense that I was so happy to be reading it. There's some good humor in there too. A certain animal is featured in the Dramatis Personae, which as soon as I saw that, I was like, this is going to be the GOAT. This is going to be amazing. Not like literally a GOAT, but like greatest of all time. Can I read The God Is Not Willing if I haven't finished Reaper's Gale? I know it's not ideal, but I feel drawn to that book for some reason. No. Well, no. If you're that far in, I really would not. I would not. I think I would just do Reaper's Gale, get through it, and just know you have some really cool stuff to read once you're done. And honestly, by the time you finish the series, the Witness series might be done, which is pretty cool. Could you start your Malazan with The God Is Not Willing, or should you read the 10 books first? So I would always say publication order is the best way of going. But like I said, some people who probably understand the series much better than me have said that you can start there. I would just Google, or not Google, but YouTube it. I think Andy Smith has a video on it that I watched. I think it was Andy. My memory's not good anymore. I would seek out the opinions of other readers about this. Beware of spoilers. But I have heard people say you could. I just don't feel convicted in it to say it. Never mind. I think you just answered my question. Well, I hope I probably like reversed it for you just because you're in the series. You know what I'm saying? So, oh, what's up, Zachary Shea? Good to see you. Best hair on BookTube. This has me so hyped starting it soon. Let's go. Let's go. It would be hard for me to imagine being a big Malazan fan and not at least finding parts of this to be absolutely amazing. I'm sure they're out there, though. I know they're out there. They have to be. If it's a book 12, does it count as 11 book 2s for Jimmy's official count? No, it is a book 2 in the Witness. It counts as a book 2 for my purposes. Has he written anything non-Malazan in a serious way? Yeah. Rejoice, Knife Through the Heart. His first contact sci-fi. I have a hair on my glass, driving me crazy. Is very serious. Yes. I think he has like some general fiction, like coming of age stuff. Yeah. There is definitely serious non-Malazan books out there for him, for sure. So, Alex Archive said, really need to make 2026 my Malazan year. This sounds amazing. You know me, I'm a huge fan of the series. There's really nothing else like it out there. There's pieces of it that are like Black Company, but as a whole package, it's insane. It's just insane. Kid in the Candy Shop is exactly what I want to hear about this. Thank you, Jimmy. I think you just made my month. Well, I hope you like it. I always feel weird giving people like really high expectations, so I hope you like it. Marty from my Discord just read The Passage, which I was very high on, and they did not enjoy The Passage. And the only thing I thought was, I feel bad. I hope I didn't steer somebody wrong. So I'm glad you're excited, but forget it was me that recommended it if you don't like it. Eric, what's up? Said, you know what? I think 2026 is going to be the year of this Malazan thing for me. It sounds like there's like an impromptu buddy read going on. And there's always, what's cool about this thing, like YouTube and books, is that you can almost always find someone that's, at least if the series is as popular as something like Malazan, you can almost always find somebody to take the journey with. And your opinions might vary. People will drop out and stuff. But there is something cool about that. Like jumping into a group and being like, we're all reading this thing. I think that's nice. It's only not nice whenever it starts to shape your experience, which is almost impossible for it not to, because we're all humans. I know, I'm sorry. Maybe Midnight Tides will right the ship. You're saying, yeah, you like people talking about Malazan way more than me. I get that. I feel about the Wheel of Time. I love hearing people talk passionately about the Wheel of Time, but man, do I not like reading Robert Jordan. I also feel this way a lot about Stormlight. Like my buddy Christian from Lost in Discovery can get me so hyped. And then I think about certain things and I'm like, you know what? I don't know. Even Mistborn. The way people talk about Mistborn, and I don't like Mistborn, but man, when people talk about it, I get excited. So I get it, Tom. I really do. And I like the way you phrased this, by the way, because you could have said, like they must be talking about a different set of books, which I always think is just such a condescending thing to say. It's almost like they're lying or something. I hate when people do that. But Tom's a good guy, and Tom didn't do that. Good example of how not to be annoying and have a differing opinion. We love Tom Orange here, even if he hates Malazan and me as a person. Best hair on BookTube. Andy will have words with you, sir. And what's Andy gonna do? I can put my hand on his forehead, and he's not gonna be able to do anything. He's gonna be throwing C.S. Lewis books at me. Kale said Midnight Tides was my favorite, set in the same world but a location far away from the previous books. Kale, I agree. If I could pick one Malazan book to reread infinitely, it'd be Midnight Tides, just because I feel like it just goes really well on its own. Happy belated birthday, my fellow Scorpio. Good vibes. Hey, thank you. I appreciate it. And happy birthday to you too. Brian at BellTube said, I have the best back hair on BookTube. That should be an award on the nutties I should do. Jenna, thank you. Said they will not blame me if they don't like it as much as me. Thank you. Thank you. I agree, Shay. Every year is the year to read Malazan. I think I have read Malazan every year. No, last year I didn't have any Malazan. Well, no, I reread Gardens of the Moon. Yeah, I have read Malazan every year since 2020. Whenever I first read it, 2022? That's pretty cool, actually. Jimmy said Mistborn Air 2 was the GOAT. It's on the record. I disagree with that. I greatly disagree with that. Marge Hoagie, which, great name. This was my Malazan year, but it's turning more into a Malazan half decade because I needed such a breather to recover after each one. There's no reward for finishing it fast. And remember, you can only read through it for the first time once. Enjoy it. Enjoy it. I was so hot for the Final Empire because of BookTube and didn't like it. I was excited for that trilogy. It was really early on, and I remember people being like, dude, if you like A Song of Ice and Fire, wait till you read Mistborn. I don't know why anyone would do that to somebody. Talk about bad expectations. Not because, A Song of Ice and Fire is so much better. I'm not even talking about that. They are almost nothing alike, except for the fact that it's like the closest to being like very grim that Sanderson's ever been, because I think they were trying to get him to capture that audience. But perfect. Let's talk about 70 Pages into Memories of Ice. Great book. Great book. I'll reread Malazan when the final Erikson prequel comes out. If I had to say, like, what fantasy series is left on the table right now that, like, I'm just dying to get to, but I'm waiting for the right time, it's Carcanis by Stephen Erikson. I'm waiting for that final book to come out, and then I see that being just straight through. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe it won't be straight through, but boy, howdy. The Carcanis, I just have a feeling about Carcanis that I'm going to like it more than anything else, just from what people have told me. But who knows? Who knows? Okay, it's time to talk about another sequel. And one I was very, very high on at the beginning and then kind of have teetered off, and I've settled somewhere into the mostly positive range on, and that is The Strength of the Few by James Islington. Honestly, probably one of my most anticipated releases of the year, solely for the fact that The Will of the Many. All right. If you don't know my history, and I know a lot of you do because my audience comes back each time, I don't attract a lot of new viewers, but there might be people here specifically wanting to hear my opinion about this book. Will of the Many was largely okay to me until the end. I loved the ending of that book. I think I said it's one of my favorite endings I've read in recent memory, and I stand by that. I still think what he did was insane and crazy. James Islington, History of Me, I did not like Vicanius. I DNF book 3 at 80% and was just like, gosh, there's so much awesome stuff in the plot here, but I could not do it. I did not enjoy his characters. Never really loved his writing. I did think the writing had improved in Will of the Many over Lycanius. I stand by that, but I still don't think it's a strength of his necessarily. At certain times, I'll explain if I remember here in a minute. The Strength of the Few, I kind of have to balance this review. I think the first part of this book, because it is broken up into parts, I think the first part of this book is one of my favorite sections of a fantasy book I read this year, but also my favorite Islington by a large margin. And I was so thrilled because, like I said, in book 1, loved it. And I felt like he carried that momentum. And it's just one of those things. And I have to be very careful about how I talk here because I refuse to spoil this. And do not spoil this in the chat. I'm begging you, if you've read this, do not spoil in the chat. Not anything, not even from book 1. It is such a ludicrous thing that he did at the end of book 1. And then for him to pick up that momentum and just be like, just blitzing through it, introducing a bunch of stuff, I'm like, okay, Islington is a crazy man and I'm here for it. This book in totality, I really like the plot of this book. Not all of it. There's a lot of stuff in different parts of the book, we'll say. And I don't mean like the numeral parts, whatever. If you've read this book, you know what I'm saying. There's sections of this book where I didn't necessarily love the plot beats. Specifically, one section of the book that was my favorite setting and did not deliver. And there was like a dancing thing that I hated. I did not love. And I got about halfway through this book and I said in my Discord, I said, I feel like I've been reading this book for roughly 47 years. At that moment, I said, that's not really anything against the book. It's just how I feel. That feeling became kind of exasperated by me not caring about pretty much any character in the book. I don't read Islington for his characters. I don't read it for his prose. I read it for the plot. And the plot felt like it was expanding, which is good. But much like No Life Forsaken, it kind of felt like it had to do a lot of legwork. And I know that sounds weird because book one has a ton of setup. But if you've read book one, you'll know what, like, you'll kind of get it, I think. Islington writes in a manner that can be very short. He's much like Glenn Cook in the fact that he likes periods over commas most of the time. I don't have a problem with that as a choice. In fact, when I write, I tend to favor periods over commas as well. Just, I don't know why. I've always found it to be more fun to be direct whenever I write my stories. So I kind of relate to him in that manner. However, this book is 700 and something pages and definitely at times feels a little bit verbose in the word choice and the way he says things. So being a bit verbose, but writing in short stinted sentences that sometimes honestly don't even feel like sentences, it's kind of this weird yo-yo effect that doesn't really work for me and just feels like I'm taking forever to get through the book. And I wasn't super duper interested in the middle part of this book. Now, the end of every single part of this book, like the parts that he sets out and breaks out, amazing. His plot beats that the things that he like set out to do when he probably wrote this outline, because he had to have outlined this. It's insane. All of that is sick and I love it. But it just felt like a little bit long in the tooth. I have looked at a couple different reactions to this. It seems mostly positive. There are people who have some complaints. The thing I saw the most about this book, the criticism I saw the most, is that it needed more. It needed more time. It needed more pages. I don't know if I agree with that. I think that they were wanting more resolutions in this book. I think they wanted to see some things get closed up and then have a couple bridges to the next book. I don't think that's what Islington's doing. Islington's going to go for the biggest firework display of all time, I would imagine, in the final book. And I'm going to be there for it. I will continue to read this series because I'm very invested on the way his brain works to make these events fall in place. I still think it's one of the most ambitious fantasy series I've read in a good while, and I love it for that. But to say it needed to be longer, I just don't agree for the fact, like, I don't think he maximized his space. And I'm almost thinking, like, could we have not written this in a manner where we cut a lot of what felt like it was long in the tooth and just find a better way of saying some stuff? And specifically, towards the end of the book, there are 3 or 4 chapters of a certain section that are like congruent, and it opens up with almost the exact same description of this place and what's happening there. And when I say exact, that's a bit hyperbolic, but they're very similar to where I actually said, I must have like read this when I was going to bed last night because I remember this description. No, it was a new chapter with like a very similar description to open it up. And I'm looking at it's like 700 pages. I am tired of reading this book. And I'm like, see, this is a problem. Where is the editor to say, hey, let's switch this up? Maybe not open this section's chapter the same way 2 or 3 times in a row. That could be tiresome to people. And maybe I'm just people. Maybe it's just me. That's fine. That bothered me. It just didn't feel like it was as polished as The Will of the Many, which I don't think is like the greatest writing in the world. Also, you'll see a thing down here saying Vec. Vec is an in-world swear. I despise it. It is used so often. I sent a picture to a friend who was reading this alongside me. I think it was like 4 to 6 times on one page. I know everyone it's a meme on this channel if you've been around that I don't like in-world swears. That's not totally true. There's an in-world swear here called rotting gods. Like rotting gods, that was tough. I love that. I thought that was good. It was used just enough to almost kind of feel natural. every time I read Vec, one, I don't necessarily really like Vec. At least it's a little pointed, a little hard at the end. I kind of like that. Like fuck. Like it has like that Vec. Like it has that. It just was used too many times. Oh my God. It was driving me crazy. And I know this is probably like part of me, my problems, my issues. I know it's subjective, but it's my channel, so I'm going to say it. Oh God, it really bothered me. So I told you I like the plot. I think the ambition of it's crazy. What else did I like about this book? Dude, some of this book is so metal. Like, some of this stuff is outrageously violent and like just gory almost. Some of the scenes they're messed up. They're messed up, but I like that stuff. I thought it was pretty metal. I thought it was done in a manner that didn't feel like it was cheap or anything like that. I like all that. The action's really great. When he goes to hit his points, he delivers. This is a guy, if you're a plot reader, you're probably going to want to check out. I don't think anyone else is doing it to this level right now in fantasy. I'm talking about current releases. Stormlight's on a hiatus, but Stormlight would be a good contender. I definitely think I like where this book is going more than where Stormlight has gone and will probably go. That doesn't mean that I like it more than Stormlight. I'm just speaking specifically of like plot and the world mysteries of it all. I did like one character named Ostius. I'm so curious about him. That was one character who, does some awful things, by the way. I really enjoyed that character more than Vis, more than really any of the other characters. I was hoping to become attached to some of the characters from book one, but because the scope of this book is so massive and crazy, it really didn't feel like we got that time with the characters that at least I knew from book one and maybe had an opportunity maybe to grow some more attachment to them. It just didn't feel like it was there. And I think that's where people are like, oh, it should have been longer. I'm thinking, well, maybe we just do a better job of what we have. Like that is possible. You could do a lot with a little amount of pages. You really can. I think about this with R. Scott Baker. His books are not necessarily short, but oh my goodness, does he get a lot out of the page time hit the characters are on. And with a cast that is very large once you get into the sequels. Maybe not the biggest like POV switches or whatever, but definitely a big cast. And I think R. Scott Baker actually maximizes page count really, really well. I don't think Islington does. I don't think it's in Islington's nature to get me to like a character immediately or be invested in them. But I am in awe of his creativity. I really am. And he made a magic system out of a Ponzi scheme almost, which if you've read the books, I think that's a pretty fun way of describing it. But if you really sit down and think about it, like that's a crazy thing to do. Islington, I hope, will write books for a very long time. I think that he could, improve in many ways. But at the scale that he's doing it, this is fun epic fantasy, and really unlike anything else going right now, which I really, really like. I think that's about it. I just think there's a lot of apathy for me towards the characters. I'm just not sold on them or any of the relationships. But I am still here for it, and I will read the next book. If you're asking me, hey, I didn't like Will of the Many, will I like Strength of the Few? It depends on what you didn't like about it. I will say if you didn't like the ending of Will of the Many, I don't know how you would like this book because it just goes to wild places. So if you thought Will of the Many was just okay and you're curious, I would do it. And if you're someone who likes like putting out the board with the strings, like, the Charlie meme, this is for you. If you're a puzzle solver, this is definitely one I think that could be interesting. There's a lot of theories to be made. If there's one person in the world I wish I would read this series, it would be Christian from Lost and Discovery, who I've now mentioned twice on this stream. He made Stormlight theory videos, and me and him had a short-lived Stormlight archive podcast. I don't know if there's anyone better to represent a series and its mysteries and draw that intrigue. We talked about a little earlier, I was talking with Tom about getting fired up hearing someone talk about a series more than you like reading it. This series, to me, would have that all over it. And I think that, oh man, Christian would love this series. He would love it. I wish he would read it. So let me know what you guys think. And I know I'm probably going to get shit on for being so over the top annoyed by Vec, but I don't know, it bothers me, man. It just does. So let's take a look here. I personally like the colon. Oh, poop joke. I like it. I like it. Yana said, I enjoyed Strength of the Few, but I did feel like a middle book to me. My issues with the main character continued from book 1 to book 2, but still very enjoyable to read, and we'll read a third one when it is out. Yes. How do I say this? I do think Viss is a better character in book 2. Use that for what you will, okay? Daniel said, I don't know that Islington has a super strong voice. I don't think he does. Lycanus is kind of Sanderson, Robert Jordan-ish. Will of the Many felt like Pierce Brown, kind of. Okay. I mean, when you're talking about just like batshit stuff happening, I could see the Pierce Brown. I think I like Pierce Brown's writing more. And I'm not like the biggest Pierce Brown fan in the world, but I think I like Pierce Brown's quite a bit more than Islington. Books of Bangkok said, I haven't tried Islington yet. If you had to compare his writing voice tone to anyone, who would it be? Probably Sanderson, though they're very different. Like, this is not a one-for-one. Please don't come for me, people. But just like where Sanderson has that window pane prose kind of get to the point. I mean, I think it's like a little bit more of like a terse version of that. I don't necessarily think it's awful, but it is grating to me at times. So let's see. Rebecca Nicole said, I didn't like the ending of book 1 and thought I wasn't going to continue the series, but I'm getting FOMO on this one coming out. Honestly, I'll be honest with you. I don't think you would like it. If you didn't like the end of book 1, I think it would, and I could maybe see why some people would like, I understand why people wouldn't like end of book 1. I just don't think book 2, what he starts doing and where he goes with it, is going to be something that's going to work for people. If you're not a fan of Viss being a first person, I think that's also like, if you hated Viss or like couldn't stand reading him, it'd be pretty tough to get through, I think. So is it confirmed how many books this series is going to be? So I have heard, I thought it was 3, and then I heard 4. So right now I think it's 4 books, but I really don't know. I went into this book expecting it, by the way, to be a 3-book series until the very end when someone told me and corrected me, which I'm thankful for. All I could think about when I was reading this was like, how in the hell is he going to wrap all this up in a 3rd book? This is going to be insane. It's going to be the biggest book of all time or the fastest paced book of all time. Now that I know there's 2 books, I'm way more lenient on like the lack of resolutions in this book, because it's doing its job. It's finishing out the first half of the series and setting us up for what I think will probably be a pretty mesmerizing ending, I would imagine. Yeah, part 2 was a slugfest. Part 3 picks up again. Looking forward to the next one. Yeah, there's some stuff in part 3 that is banging. Bart, what's up? Said, period, comma, I'm all about the semicolon. You know what I mean? I know what you mean. This reminds me of Frack from Battlestar. So annoying. Oh, Frack. Oh, okay, I got you. Hood's balls is the best in-world swear. It could be. It could be. Marty said, Flyers, Jimmy, not sure what you don't like. Flyers, Jimmy, not sure what you don't like about the in-world swears. Very good. Very good. There are in-world swears I like. Rotting Gods is great. I think it's very good. Yeah, Ben, just try to ignore the Vecking for Vec's sake. When you're behind a decade of booktube, so you're like, I'll get the Hierarchy series in like 10 years. So Alex, I actually wonder if this series would be a lot more enjoyable on a binge read because of like all of the stuff that you want to know and the stuff that he's adding in. Like waiting another like 2 to 3 years for the next book. It's gonna be hard. Maybe not hard. Maybe not hard. It's not like I really want to read like 5,000 pages of Islington back to back to back to back. So, what's up, Derry? Good to see you. Very, very good to see you. Jimmy, is that a big collar you're wearing, or are you cosplaying? I'm actually part of the House of Black and White and Bravos. Completely unrelated. Can I make a request for this year's Nutties Bobby B bit appearance? I'll see what I can do. Be a little bit harder to do it on the Nutties. I'll talk about my end of year plans, I think. So, where is it? I'm trying to see. There's some talk about frigging and freaking as words, but I'm not sure. How's the narrator on the Hierarchy series? People seem to like him from what I've seen. So Zeely said, I'm sorry, I can't focus on anything except the cute little Anubis dog in the corner. Mrs. Nuts is always leaving Easter eggs. Always. Okay, Paloma said, I saw a review for Strength of the Few where the booktuber kept calling this Vec because Vec was used so much. Oh, man. Jimmy with glasses? The washed-up Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu practitioner? I like the political drama in book 1 the most and didn't feel like the ending was foreshadowed well. Plus, I'm a little tired of the trope at the end. I'll tell you what, Rebecca, what I would do is I would get the sample from like Google Books or Amazon. I genuinely think you'll know within a chapter whether or not you're gonna vibe with it. I will say I was a little disappointed with some of the political stuff that I felt was kind of jumped over. Like we kind of just touched on it, moved on, and then moved on to like a different scene in it. I don't know how you'll feel about it. I'm going to stick with my gut, Rebecca, knowing you, talking to you. I don't know if you'd like it. I don't think you would. I could be wrong. I hope I'm wrong. I hope you love it. Hey, Hobo Giant said, happy holidays, Jimmy. Thanks for being a positive part of 2025. Here's to a great 2026. Thank you very much. I try my best. To put in positivity. You know what I'm saying? Jay Kristoff is gifted at In-World Swears. You know, the pieces I read of Nevernight and what's the second book called? Whatever. I actually didn't mind his In-World Swears at all. In fact, I think I remember complimenting them. If I remember. China Mieville has some great In-World Swears. Yeah. You know what one is not great, though it makes sense, is like the Rust. Was it Rust in the Broken Earth, which I just talked about how much I like Broken Earth. It's one of my favorite trilogies. Don't like that In-World Swear very much either, even if it does make sense. It's like storming and stormlight. It makes total sense. It's like it's like one of the worst things that can happen to a person. Like the storms are so oppressive, whatever. Doesn't mean I have to like it, of course. Okay, final book, and it's going to be a really short one. I know I'm going on. I'm being very long-winded tonight. I want to leave some space at the end of this thing to talk about my end of the year schedule, because I know people are always curious about that. So this is a sequel that I was pumped for. I talked about the first book of this, which is The Crypt of the Moon Spider. Did I get it right? Moon Spider's Crypt. I can't remember. I always mess it up. It's Nathan Ballingrud, who's written a bunch of other books. And I'm probably going to keep reading his stuff because this dude is demented and also pretty talented, I think. This is a planned trilogy of novellas. They're horror. This one was like 136 pages, I think, maybe 160 pages. I can't remember. First one was even shorter than that. I think it was less than 100 pages, which is really, really cool. Evie, I will talk about Lazarus at the end. I didn't. Evie, give me a second. All right, I usually don't watch chat because I get distracted. This is a problem. Okay, Cathedral of the Drowned is the sequel to that, and it does pick up. I was kind of surprised because I wasn't sure if it was going to continue the story necessarily, or if it was going to be individual tales in this really weird, like alternate history of being like back a couple decades. I think it's if I remember correctly, it's like the 50s, I want to say, but where like we've went to the stars. Very weird, like alternate history, historical fiction, horror, sci-fi thing. But it's actually a continuation of the story. And I was excited about that. And I like all those points. This book is actually fairly different from book one. Book one, very much a weird fiction book with some pretty crazy scenes that were somewhat scary, gory. But I really felt like it fell into that weird fiction genre. Cathedral of the Drowned is not. I mean, it's still weird, but this is gory. I mean, it's really gory. Some of the body horror is turned up to 20 out of 10. I think the first comment I had about this book was that it was absolutely disgusting. Like some just disgraceful scenes that made me squirm, and I was almost flabbergasted by how gross it was. Probably the grossest book I've ever read. Now, I know some of you are like, that sounds awful. Why would I read that? I don't know. I like horror movies quite a bit. Kind of interesting to read in fiction. I think it actually affected me more reading it because I could like feel it. The way it's written is very, very evocative. But I was really on the line of like a mostly positive to a positive. I settled on positive because of just how trippy some of the stuff was when it comes to like the sci-fi elements. And I think they work really well. I think they're some of the cooler science fiction elements that I've read recently. In the body horror, while it is disgusting and disturbing, it's really well done. The only problem I have with this book, and it's kind of a large problem, is there's this random, like, I don't want to give a bunch of stuff away, but I'll just say this. It is an alternate history. There's like this Sicilian kind of mafia thing going on in this book that is so out of left field that I almost want to love it. But I think the plot point is pretty dumb. And I don't say that often. I'm pretty tactful, I think. I thought it was really dumb. And I think the people who were like part of that piece of the plot were making really stupid decisions. I kind of wanted to see them get killed for how dumb they were. But the whole plot was just very odd. And I think it's interesting that he like balances all these things between horror and sci-fi and whatever and the alternate history. And I just think the alternate history piece of this one did not hit and didn't work. I think in book one it did, or novella one, whatever you want to call it. So I think book one is better than book two, but the change of vibes and tones was very good and gross. And when you see Cathedral of the Drowned, you can probably start to piece together maybe some of what these scenes might entail and the kind of setting that you're talking about. The continuation of the story was awesome, and I am very excited for book number 3. I hope it's out next year. I don't know if it is. I think it is, but it'll be the first ever trilogy of novellas I've ever read in my life. So that's kind of cool. Yeah. This is just a positive. It's a novella, folks. It only has 100 and something pages, and I don't want to give any more away. Not that I really gave away much. Really dumb plot point in the middle of the book that kind of runs throughout it. Really dumb. The alternate history stuff is not nearly as good as book one. But if any of that horror element stuff or trippy sci-fi gets you, or you want to be grossed out for some reason, this is the one for you. And I will read more of his books. I'm a very, very big fan of his writing, and I like the way his brain works, and he makes me want to read more horror, to be honest with you. So that is that. Real quick wrap up for that novella. I do want to talk about something else, and Evie actually, let's go to the chat. We'll go to the chat real quick, just in case anyone else has read this and get some thoughts on this. Evie is screaming at me about Lazarus, which I'm going to talk about in just a second. And that it will be very quick because it is a 40-page short story. So let me see. Cathedral of the Drowned is a great name. Rebecca, I could not agree more. Such a good name. Whereas like the Heretic's Guide to Homecoming. I don't know. Cathedral of the Drowned. Yes, Crypt of the Moon Spiders 1. Sorry. WTF is that drawing? It kind of encapsulates the weirdness of the book, to be honest with you. Matt, you should start these. I actually, if you're into horror, folks, I really do recommend this. Derry said, not a fan of body horror. Do not read it. Do not read it. It is the most intense body horror I've read. Even in movies, honestly. It's up there. These should be adapted. Oh, my gosh. Adapt this to a mini series, please. I would say HBO, but they just got bought out by Netflix, so who knows? Well, Warner Brothers. Ugh, God, how terrible is that? Some okie dude said body horror has its place. Not really a fan of it myself, though my favorite horror film is The Thing shrugs. Yeah, like anything. It can be used effectively. Alex Wilkins said, alrighty, Jimmy, I'm sold. My disgustingness, I guess it was a good selling point. ADHD reader, I just watched The Substance, and it is worse than The Substance as far as body horror graphic goes. Though The Substance did make my skin crawl a little bit. I really, really liked that movie, by the way. Grosser Than Baker? Yeah. Yeah, and remember, they're very different stories. Like, I'm not saying everybody will feel that way, but I was just blown away by how... And maybe it's because it's so ramped up from book one. But yeah, I do think this is like the most gross book I've ever read. So I can read horror and dark things, but I'm sensitive to watching and hearing it. Okay. Grosser Than a Unholy Consult. I think I do. I do. I think so. Zelia Green said, yeah, Ballingrud really leans into muck of horror. His other books are similar. Very cool. Tom said, I like the first one. I've been on the fence about reading this one, mostly because the ebook is $12. Yeah, if I remember correctly, Crypt of the Moon Spider was free on Kindle Unlimited. So, and I think that's right. I could be wrong. But if you wait long enough, I bet you this sequel will go to Kindle Unlimited if you have that. You could always check libraries. I don't think that they're going to carry it, but maybe. I mean, he is a pretty popular horror author for what it's worth. Tom, I did buy it, and I was not thrilled about the pricing. But the way I look at it is I know that short fiction, and by the way, Tom, I'm not trying to convince you to buy it or shaming anyone for not buying it. I agree with you. The reason why I decided to buy it is because I think that shorter fiction novellas or short stories are vastly underrated online, at least in the groups that I frequent. And I almost feel like I have to support it. One, this is an author that I would love to see write more novellas. So if he has good sales, he'll continue to do it, which I'm all for. I prefer horror in the short form anyways, but I also just want to see more quality novellas of whatever genre it might be. So to me, it was kind of like, I'm going to put my money forth. I'm being ripped off, by the way. Like, I am being ripped off for what it is. But if I'm going to give my money, I'd like it to be something that I've really enjoyed so far. Considering that we're following a certain character in this one, the mob inclusion didn't feel off to me. Yeah, I mean, I get it. The character is in it, and then that's part of the conflict. But for me, I was just imagining The Sopranos, and I was just like, does this fit? It didn't feel like it fit to me personally. And I don't know. It's also kind of contained to this book. I don't know. I'm sure a lot of people are probably going to end up liking that piece. I just didn't. I did not like it. Oh, man. It's, yeah. So, hate body horror. Don't like putting that stuff in my brain. Do not read this. Beth said, I've never been able to watch horror, but I found out last year that I do like reading it. Crypt of the Moon Spider is a favorite for me. Hoping to like this one. I do love good body horror. If you like Crypt of the Moon Spider, I think you will enjoy this. Whether it's the same amount or more, your mileage may vary. I think Bajol wrote a whole series of novellas. She did. Which is awesome. Tom said, okay, I like the horror stuff, so I guess I'll have to read it. Yeah, and like I said, if you wait long enough, it'll probably be on Kindle Unlimited, I think. Marianne said, I haven't read much body horror, but I'm not so much a fan, but I didn't really find it that gross. I don't know. It could be me. So this is a great example. Me and Marianne clearly had completely different experiences of this book. I liked the plot point I didn't like. Also didn't find it that gross. Maybe it was just like the manner in which these things were happening, just like personally, like get to me. That's certainly possible, but that's part of the subjective thing. So you have an example here of someone who honestly didn't find it that gross. So maybe you won't. I always second guess myself. So now I'm like, well, maybe it wasn't that gross. I remember having a very visceral reaction though, from what I remember. My mom is watching and she likes you, but I told her you don't like Red Rising or Dresden, and now she's disappointed in you. I like Red Rising. And I like some of Dresden. I just got tired of him staring at 16-year-olds. That's all. I like Red Rising. Red Rising is just not like my favorite. Like, people love Red Rising. I haven't read the sequels yet, so give me some time, Mama Colton. That's what I'll call. Thanks for watching, though. That's really nice. Oh man, that Netflix news kills me. Yeah, it's not gonna be good. Sir Jordan Drew said, "Body horror is the only horror that gets me." I think me too. Actually. The Ruins was gross body horror. $12 is an unreasonable price for a file that can be infinitely reproduced for $0, not to mention, less than 200 pages. Feels like you're getting kicked in the scrotum repeatedly. Horror also works better in the short form. Yeah, I think anything can work better in the short form. I really prefer it. So, Jordan Drew said, by the way, good to see you, buddy. Said, I love a good novella series. The Singing Hill Cycle is probably my favorite. I remember you recommending that, and I have it on my TBR. Mrs. Nuts, make sure I bought that on Kindle. I think I did. The Singing Hill Cycle, Mrs. Nuts. Make sure you write that down. I know I put it on the TBR. I feel like I bought it on Kindle. Favorite short story collection, Jimmy. Dream Songs by Gurm. I'm not finished with them, but he's probably my favorite. Outside of that, probably Tolstoy, one of his various collections. I would say the one with Death of Ivan Illich, but they've released so many. The Penguin Classics one's the one I have, and I think almost every single line of Tolstoy short stories. Very, very good. I'm disappointed in Jimmy for not liking Dresden too. But the good news is there's like so many other people that like it. So you don't need me. You really don't need me. You know what I mean? Hey, Jimmy, I arrived a bit late, but I will watch the replay later. Couldn't stop reading The Warrior Prophet till now. Hey, you are excused. That's a really good excuse. Also, hope you're doing well. You had me at kicked in the scrotum repeatedly. Don Coven says, lots of new release ebooks are $21. Yep, they sure are. The other day, I can't remember what book it was. Oh, it was Hamnet. I bought Hamnet, and I was going to get the ebook because I'm really trying to limit how much physical books I have. And I want to utilize my Kindle more. And the paperback was not just cheaper, and I don't know if it's still this way, and it might have been a Black Friday thing, but it was significantly cheaper. So I bought the physical book, and it's very frustrating. I think it's just a ploy to sell more physical books, probably. Because, they win either way, right? Did you read Ted Chiang's collections too, Jimmy? Yes, I did. I like Stories of Your Life and Others more than Exhalation, which is, I think, a hot take for Ted Chiang fans. I do love that collection quite a bit. I would need to sit down and think about my favorite collections, but those are all up there. I have not read Ken Liu's. I have not. We are just waiting to the Amazon, Google, Netflix merge. I think laws will prevent that, but who knows? Laws are changing rapidly, or ignored rapidly, it seems. Warrior Prophet is peak. Dan, I think you're peak. Oh my goodness. Murphy is here. Said, pretend to like it for us. The Dresden fandom needs you. They literally don't. They literally don't. I think we need validation. There is nothing I like more than validating opinions online. It's actually my favorite thing about what I do. And by that, I mean, it's my least favorite thing. The thing is, it's I will probably finish Dresden at some point. I just don't know what's going to put me in that mood again, especially knowing that the next book picks up with the same problem I had at the end of the last book I read. So I just feel like I'm going to just piss myself off all over again. Maybe I'll just jump to changes and just read changes. Fantasy Fanatics, I paid $28 for the Shadows Upon Time ebook. Did they give you a back massage? $28? I never make videos complaining about anything. That almost makes me want to, but it won't do anything. So if ebooks ridiculous pricing is why they didn't take over the book market, it's ridiculous. Yeah, I agree. Often physical is cheaper. I suppose it costs them money to store the physical copies, so they probably want to move them. Digital is essentially free to store. Yeah, essentially, right? And I agree. I think it's priced that way because if you buy it, it's well, good, you bought it. It's way more expensive. But they're probably hoping you'll buy the physical. At least I think. Don Coven said lots of new release ebooks in Canada are $21. They show $50 as a list item with whatever percentage off. That is criminal. Criminal. Did you just put your trust in U.S. law, Jimmy? Somewhat. We literally do. No, you literally don't. You literally don't. Don't lie to the people. Oh, this is nice. Swamp said, hey, Murphy, you are the first booktuber I found back in COVID. That is great. And now you're here on a much better channel with much better reviews, much better, really, mostly everything. I think the only thing Murphy has on me is that she has better muscles than me. And that's just not fair, but it is how it is, I'm not my prime anymore. I love Sun Eater, but 28 is ridiculous. It is preposterous. Preposterous. And Lost Beyond the Wall is right. I wouldn't even mind this if I thought the authors were making most of the money. Yeah, that is a problem, right? I heard a great argument for starting Dresden with changes. I think I even agree with it. Okay, you know what? I'll consider this experiment, and I'll get back to you about it. Jimmy, don't be such a prude. I could go on a tirade about how I don't think I'm being a prude because of what the actual situation is, but I'm not going to do that because I don't like talking about Dresden. I'm not talking about it. I'm not doing it. I'm sorry. Oh, hey, Murphy. Last book that I read this month is a short story, 40 pages, was sent to me for my birthday by my good friend Evie, who is awesome. And it is Lazarus by Leonid Andreev. This is not super out there. Whenever you search Lazarus, it's not the first thing that pops up. You're going to have to dig for it. It is translated work from Russia. And this is back around Tolstoy, Dostoevsky times. And he was dubbed the Russian Edgar Allan Poe. This 40-page story is one of the best things I've read all year. And it is simply about Lazarus from the Bible. Jesus resurrects him. He comes out from the tomb. This story picks up after that, and you are with Lazarus. What did Lazarus see when he crossed into the infinity? What is Lazarus' life now that he is back? How do people perceive him? How does the government and the emperor at the time feel about someone who has been raised from the dead? That's all I can say. It's 40 pages. Either you read it or you don't. It's written in a manner that I think is so... I've been saying manner a lot tonight. I'm sorry. It's written in a way that I love. It felt very biblical. And I think that's very much intentional. I actually happen to like, for the most part, a lot of the writing of the New Testament, depending on the author or whatever and the translation. But I still read some Bible stories in my spare time, though I'm not a believer anymore. So I love the writing style of it. I know it's translated, so it's hard to say that kind of thing, but that might be the only hurdle for some people. Some people are going to find this downright boring, but I found this to be very chilling. I found it to be a bit existential, but maybe not in the way that you're thinking. Just go read it if that has any interest to you at all. If you've ever read the story of Lazarus, which actually they include at the back of the book, which I thought was quite nice. I ended up reading Lazarus again for like the 50 millionth time. And I just really liked it. And it's a book about death, much like a lot of other Russian authors. I think he does a great job. I thought it was interesting, though. I did read, I'm pretty sure Leo Tolstoy did not like him. And I think that he said he just sets out to shock and disgust people. It was kind of an elitist about it, which Tolstoy was a bit critical of his peers. He was infamously not the biggest fan of Dostoevsky. He did have nicer things to say about him after he passed, or towards the end, I think. But Tolstoy's known to be a bit prickly, and he wasn't a huge fan of this. So I kind of like reading back and forth from authors and what they think of each other, especially from that time period. I feel like all the criticism is always way more measured, but also very catty, which is kind of fun. I loved it. Great short story. If you want to read a short story, this would definitely be in the horror section. Give it a shot. Give it a shot. I think it's really, really good. So that is it. Hey, thank you, Murphy. She said that hoodie looks good. Mrs. Nuts bought this for me. I think I look like a wannabe music producer when I wear my white Adidas with this. You know, because the whole thing is brown, right? Like the whole thing is just brown. You see this? Was that good? I used to be a model back in the day. Not really. But thank you. I appreciate it. It's the most comfortable hoodie I've ever purchased. So Jimmy's totally a Giga Chad. Hell yeah. Hell yeah. Oh, Evie, I'm so glad I could validate you. I'm so glad. Jimmy, do it. Skip the changes. Maybe I will. Jimmy, it's time for you to read Grey House. Is it though? Is it? Evie, thank you for buying it for me. It was very, very nice. Yeah, Smoky Dude, I also like biblical retellings for the most part. I would say this is a little less like a retelling and more of an expansion on the story in a different angle that I liked. So, let's see. This would definitely count towards my books to finish this year. Yeah, I mean, I have it on my Goodreads, but I don't, whatever. The King James Version smacks, man. There are better translations. Far better translations. But there is some of the writing that I do kind of like just on a prose level. People got raised from the dead all the time back then, I'm sure. NBD. Bit of a banality. There's actually some stuff about this in Canonical for Leibowitz. Interesting. Okay. ADHD reader said, honestly, King James slaps. Its literary qualities are very much to be respected, even if you hate the Bible. The writing is phenomenal. Yeah, I like the writing. The translation's the part that I have issues with. But the Dracula Flow Bible translation is super good. Dude. David, I still believe that you would enjoy Narnia from a critical and or vibes perspective, even though you're not subscribing to Lewis's worldview. Join me on my binge at the end of the month. David, I would rather do my taxes again, which I guess I'm going to have to do soon. I just did them. But I would rather do many things. Like, I don't know, sniff my gas tank, blow up my knee again, than read Narnia. Personally. Just personally. I shall read thou book Lazarus unto December. It is written just like that. Someone said you look at a Jedi and I can't unsee it. Damn. Okay. Okay. Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John prose is God tier. LMAO. Hey, let's put some plus ones in the chat for Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. Okay. But like a really cool wannabe music producer. Do those exist? J Nut Productions. I like that. I like that. Now I'm thinking, what would it be? I don't think anyone would care. Let's see here. This story is on Glutenberg. Yeah, I should tell you guys this. If you're wanting to read Lazarus, the short story, it is available for free online. Evie was kind enough to send me a physical copy, which I'm glad to have. It's kind of a little weird, unique piece. I think that's awesome. I like having those kind of things in my library. But it is completely free online. So, Jamming with Nuts. That's going to be my guitar channel name. I will not have a guitar channel. Don't worry. Wait, pause. No one in the Dresden fan needs me at all. They literally don't need me. They don't like me. If you like biblically inspired horror, then you should check out Between Two Fires. Yeah, I know. It's been on my list forever. Literally blasphemy. King James is the best, Jimmy. I've only read that version, refused to change. There's just far more accurate translations out there, though. You'd rather do many things, like watch Lost. Oh, I forgot I got to start that before the end of the year. God. Oh, my God. There's a recorded history of people being buried alive. Something rings a bell and all that. Chamber of Secrets is a banger. I love Narnia, but it's a rough read. Would you rather read Narnia or suck actual diesel? We're getting brain damage. Either way. Jimmy out here being an Aramaic scholar. Not quite. Though it was kind of a hyperfixation for me for a while, which is a very weird. I'm a very weird guy. You can see why I would not like myself, right? Vec off. Jimmy's thoughts every time someone recommends him Narnia. Oh my gosh. Narnia with nuts when? All right, that's actually catchy enough time where I might have to change my mind. Master and Margarita is something I've always wanted to watch. Derry says, I like you and I'm totally in the Dresden fandom. Yes, but I'm talking about just Dresden fans. Like, they don't know me. They're not fans, which is fine. It's fine. They don't have to. Okay, it's time for the Patreon pick of the month. Let me pull this over here. And patron picks. Okay, so here's the list. These are picks from my top 2 tiers on Patreon with our Night's Watch and Kingsguard. I appreciate you all very much, but I appreciate all the patrons, but also all the viewers. People obviously support on Patreon, but you're also supporting by just watching and chatting with me and listening to me. And I find this all very therapeutic. So we're going to select one book here. I know here, let's talk about this real quick. I usually do at the end of the year, and I did not do it last year. I think I picked like maybe 2 or 3 books, but I usually do I'm going to read 3,000 pages in December, all patron picks. And I just wipe my schedule clean and I just read patron picks. That is not going to happen right now. I don't have the bandwidth. I have some stuff I got to deal with in IRL, in real life. So I will do a patron frenzy month. I have a very good idea for how I want to do it. And let's just say it's not going to be in this office and it's going to be very up to chance. And I will have agency in it. There won't be a page count. It'll be a competition of sorts. We'll see when it happens. I don't want to talk about it too much because I like to do things instead of talk about doing things. So we are going to have to wait a little bit for that. Probably February or March, if I had to guess. Okay, so one book this month, but Patron Frenzy is coming. I know some people were probably expecting that, so I wanted to adjust that. Here we go. Let's see what I get. That was a good roll that time. Like really, really, really good. Okay, and let me look away. Shake, 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 shake. Shake, na-na-na-na. Number 62 is the winner. Quick reminder, I don't know who it is yet. I have to put this down and then look. So if I have read this book or they haven't changed their pick, we're just moving by them and we're going to pick somebody else. But number 62, okay, can you all see it? Number 62. It is Black Stone Heart by Michael R. Fletcher. I have heard so many mixed things about this. Nicholas actually sent me this book. I've known Nicholas for a while. He actually sent me this book years ago. It's sitting back there on the shelf. And it's Michael R. Fletcher, right? I just want to make sure that I'm not mispronouncing that. Yeah, Michael R. Fletcher, Blackstone Heart. Whenever people talk about grimdark, obviously talk about like R. Scott Baker and stuff. I don't get too caught up in the labels of genres, but I do always hear Michael R. Fletcher. And I've always wanted to try one of his books because I've heard things like the magic system's based around like mental illness and it's very, very dark and bleak. Pretty good time of the year for that. A little cold outside. Everything's dead. So I guess I'll see if I enjoy it. The cool thing is that I think Michael R. Fletcher writes a lot. So if I end up liking Blackstone Heart in December, I'll have another author that I can dive into. I am very curious how I end up liking it. I don't have a hunch. I'm a completely neutral. I have no idea if I will like it or not. I don't generally like things just because they're dark. They have to have like great execution, good writing, all that stuff. So we'll see. We'll have to see. Is Michael R. Fletcher self-published? Someone let me know in the chat. But congratulations, Nicholas. And thanks for sending me that book so many years ago. You're finally going to get me to read it. I should have read it before now. So let's get chat reaction to the patron pick. And then I am going to give you guys the year-end schedule and plans for Chatting with Nuts. You're going to love Lost, Jimmy. God, I hope so. I hope so. Whitney said, speaking of Between Two Fires, anyone read The Starving Saints? Something a nickel for every book about medieval religious horror with plenty of body horror. Something 2 nickels. Get ready to drop these nuts on Narnia. I like that. Tom, you lost your bet. Your DraftKings account is now empty. Could you imagine if I was right? It would look like I rigged it. Brendan said, secret is all those balls have the same number on them. He uses dry erase markers. How did you figure me out? Is it the stains on my hands? I would pick there are books on there that I'm dying to get selected. Like The Wandering Inn would have never got selected. Here, Jimmy has a jackpot reserved for anyone who gets it right. If someone guesses the number from now on, starting now, if someone in the chat can guess the number, I will also read a book of their choosing. Now, it might not be that month, but we'll do that. We'll do that. I like that. But you only get to pick one number. You can't, that'll be a benefit of coming to the live stream. Be cool. I have a competition in me, Jimmy Plainview. A Jedi is about to gamble on screen. Oh my God, it's a new age. Black Stone Heart by Michael R. Fletcher. Samwise said, I have many feelings on this book. I feel like you and I have very different outlooks probably on the world, though, based on like how you reacted to Baker and stuff, even though you liked it. Well, maybe likes not the word, but you know what I'm saying. So now I'm kind of curious. Blackstone Heart I used to hear about a lot. Yeah, it was a lot of buzz there for a minute. But I honestly, I don't think a lot of the darker stuff's really talked about much anymore. I think that phase right now is kind of out. Cozy's in. Can't help but to hear Black Hole Sun. Yep. Great song. Oh, The Mental Illness is a Magic System is not this one. Okay. And he was traditionally published and now he's moved to self-published. So not entirely unlike Baker in some ways. Baker's not self-pub, but he struggled with publisher. You will like Blackstone Heart because it's metal AF, but it won't be overwhelmingly positive, I don't think. This is whack. Okay, Beyond Redemption. I also have that as well, I think. Yeah, Fletcher was initially published by Orbit. Yeah, I think that's what I was thinking. Okay. We should start putting Jimmy's ratings and Discord picks on Polymarket. I think Polymarket is a horrendous thing, by the way. I think it's horrendous. You are going to regret this, Jimmy. Are you sure about that? What books in the Patreon picks are you dying to get to? Overstory. I pledged to read Overstory by Richard Powers in 2026. You have my word. Jimmy, have you ever finished the first volume of Wandering In? No, I DNF'd it. I do not want to read it. If you guess right, you get one free ebook on Jimmy. I would love to do something like that, but unfortunately, like giveaways and stuff, like there's like rules around it, and I don't understand it. And I almost half my audience is not in America, and I don't know how international stuff works. It's always like the thing, like on the Patreon, I always want to make t-shirts and send them out to people, but dealing with all the international shipping stuff is just so, like, one, can be difficult, but two, it almost always, something's going to get messed up, right? And then you got to deal with all that, and you're afraid you're disappointing people. I'll tell you what, two things I would love to do on this channel. I would love to do a giveaway of some sort. And I would also love to do a charity stream where I play Elden Ring and do a speed run of that video game because it's fantasy. I would make Bobby Baratheon as a character, do a speed run cosplaying as Bobby Baratheon. And just every time I die, I donate like $1 or $5 to a charity, and people could donate and all of it would go to charity. I don't think I have enough subscribers to do that, unfortunately. Like officially, I think I could do it, but like people's donations wouldn't be able to go. Because I think, and maybe I'm wrong, maybe they might have changed it, but back in the day, I think you had to have like 100,000 subs to even do that, which is dumb. Like I would love to do like quarterly charity streams. I would love that. There are always at least 80 people here. If we all pick a different number, someone is guaranteed to win. Well, most people are listening to this in their headphones, I think. What book would you pick for Jimmy Chat? Why is it a Narnia book? Oh my God. Don, that's so true. Oh no. I feel like the likelihood of being trolled is much higher in the live chat. If I make 200 accounts and guess one for each spot, do I get the reward? I guess if you just don't tell me. Joanna actually read that whole Obsidian Path series and liked it. Okay, that's actually kind of promising. The only Patreon pick I've ever heard of is Wandering In, and it's terrible. I did not like it, unfortunately. I think you're afraid of Wandering In. I am terrified. I am shaking in my whitey tighties. I am petrified of the Wandering In. Let it be known. Don't be terrified of me reading Overstory. I think I'll love it. Another Wandering In volume or Winds of Winter? Wow, that's a tough one. I would read Wandering In to get Winds of Winter. Wolf Hall was the one Jimmy wanted to get to this year. I did. I don't think it's going to happen. It could, but I don't think it's going to happen. Prime Bobby or Washed Up Bobby? Prime, it's the latter. I think Washed Up, personally. I think we got to do Washed Up. I would only pick a Narnia book if Jimmy was 12. Spamming Wandering In, Narnia, and Clarissa every month. I think I've set myself up for massive failure. So what am I reading in December? What are my plans for the end of the year? So in December, I am doing a buddy read, and this is a book I said I would read this year, and I have started it, and it's Mage's Blood by David Hare. It's the Moontide Quartet. It's a series I've been saying I have a feeling. I think this is going to be actually great, and me and Carlos have started it. We're almost 100 pages in. I will save my thoughts for when I do a wrap-up. And outside of that, I was going to read Red Dragon because we spun the wheel and Red Dragon won from Lucas's pick. We made Alan spin the wheel in the episode 100 of Chatting with Nuts. So Red Dragon is going to be read in January. So I'm not reading that in December. The other books I'm reading in December are Mordu by Alex Feby. I don't know how you say it. And I'm also reading What Can We Know by Ian McEwan. I'm probably saying that name wrong too. I'm really sorry. That is a kind of contemporary fiction sci-fi book. I have a lot to say about that one. And that's probably going to be it because of a limited amount of time and also needing a little bit of not a break from reading necessarily, but just a little bit of break on commitments for a little bit. And that's probably going to be it. I would love to tell you I'm going to finish that last 40% of Wolf Hall by Hilary Mantel. Maybe it would happen on a whim. Maybe I'll read some other stuff. I don't know, but no guarantees, unfortunately. Super Gainsborough couldn't agree more. Thank you. Also, hey, what's up, Nerdy Kathy? Very, 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 very good to see you. Very good to see you. Hope you're doing well. Jimmy, you were a pro wrestler. We know you were rocking the banana hammock. How did you know? When I stood up, we got the answer to the long anticipated question whether Jimmy is a boxers or briefs guy. Maybe George is waiting for Wandering In to finish for inspiration. Oh my gosh, that's too good. Yeah, the Thomas Harris book, Red Dragon. Yeah, me and Alan will be reading that together in January, which I'm really, really excited about. If you read Red Dragon, Jim, you need to move on to The Silence of the Lambs. I've heard that. So I've heard it's really good. I'm pumped. I'm actually super excited. I've actually not seen the movies. I've seen clips of Silence of the Lambs, obviously. Everybody has. But I've never watched it from beginning to end, I don't think. Marty's Hot Dog said, I will definitely do Mordu. I am intrigued. I'm about 100 pages into that, and I'm intrigued. I am still settling my mind on it. I have a couple small complaints so far, but I'm interested. I'm interested. I've heard it's very inspired by Gormenghast, which I think is cool. And the cover art for Mordu is top tier, in my opinion. I absolutely love it. So that's what I'm reading. The end of the year. At the end of every year, I do the award show called The Nutties. And last year I did it live. It is a lot of work to put together. A lot of preparation. Me and Mrs. Nuts spent a good amount of time on it, and we are going to do that again. So we're going to have the Nutties. You're going to see some returning categories. You might see some new categories. It's going to be hard to tell. And then I think I am going to be releasing a normally uploaded video, not a live video, of my top 10 books of 2025. It'll probably be fun, I guess. I don't know. I feel like the things that are going to be my top 10, like no one's going to want to read. But whatever. I'm going to do I love doing top 10 for the year. And last year I did top 12. Not going to do that this year. I'm going to do top 10. And I think I have a pretty solid top 10. The top 3 are already picked, I think. Number 1, unless something crazy happens, the number 1 book of the year, I think, is settled. Maybe. I don't know. We'll see. So I'm going to release a normally uploaded video. It's very rare on this channel. I pretty much do only lives for the last year and a half. But I will be doing a top 10 books. I will be doing the Nutties. And I think most likely that will happen first week of January, I think. And I'll probably fit in one more Chatting with Nuts before the end of the month. The one thing I am not sure of, and I wanted to make note of this, is I may or may not do a December wrap-up. I know I said about these books. I may kick them to the January wrap-up as well and have a big wrap-up in January, just because that's a lot of stuff to do at the end of the month, and obviously there's a holiday at the end of the month. And you might be saying, well, what about the Patreon pick? Don't worry, I will still do a Patreon pick, and what I would probably do is just do it at the end of the Nutties, or I would do it during like a Chatting with Nuts episode, which they're all Chatting with Nuts at this point. So that is kind of it. Now, that might be wrong. I might end up doing a December wrap-up stream Chatting with Nuts episode, but just know that might double up in January, just to give myself a little bit of leeway here. So Scotty B said, slightly behind on the video, would love to read Overstory next year too. It was recommended to me a bunch on Discord. I think I'm going to love it. I'm very excited. It won the Pulitzer too, which is cool. Pulitzer? Yeah, Pulitzer, I think, and the Booker, or one of the other. I don't know. So that's it. That's what you can look forward to the end of the year. The Nutties, it's always a blast to do. I like putting in the work into it because the reactions are always a lot of fun. And it's gonna be an interesting year because this is easily the most diverse my year has been. I've been reading a lot of fantasy lately, but the year had all that you could ever imagine. So I am hoping that you all will join me for the 5th or 6th Nutties. Is that true? I think it might be true. I can't remember if I did at the beginning. Either way, been here a long time. Love doing it. Top 10 books of the year video that will be out in that first week of January, which is really fun. And then hopefully fitting in at least one more Chatting with Nuts before the end of 2025. If you don't tune into that or something happens where I can't do it, I really do hope you all have a good holiday and a wonderful new year. And greatly appreciate everyone here is live and all the people that are in the comments after the fact. Please tell me about your November. Has anybody read The Heretic's Guide to Homecoming? This book, I'm like stuck on this book for what it is. I really think it should be more popular. Even though it wasn't my favorite book, I really think it should be more popular. I'll be curious. Evie said, you made my Friday, Jimmy. A great way to end my week and start my weekend. Thank you. I'm glad you had a mostly positive month reading. Thank you for the live stream. Thank you all. Thank you all so much. It means the world to me. And Nerdy Kathy says she loves Nutties, so you all should too. You guys are awesome. I appreciate you so much. You can do all the YouTube stuff, like, subscribe, whatever. There's a Patreon description. It's optional, but always appreciated. And until we see you next time, be good, be safe, and remember to always keep turning the page.